So in this particular lecture, we are going to talk about pseudo primes. Okay, pseudo primes. Acha, in the series of number theory, we had first studied congruences. Then we studied linear congruences, and Chinese remainder theorem. Today we will be studying pseudo primes. Okay. Okay. So before studying pseudo primes, we first need to understand the Fermat's Little theorem. The Fermat's Little theorem, the more generalized way that we actually need to study, the generalized way of representation. Okay. So Fermat's Little theorem can actually be represented in two forms. Okay. It can actually be represented in two forms. So you can represent it like this, that a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod p. Okay. For this, you need to have p as prime and GCD of a and p must be 1. Okay. So this is one way of writing. What is the restriction? The restriction is here that the p must not divide a. This is the restriction. Okay. And there is one more method of writing this, which is a to the power p is congruent to a mod p. This needs only p to be prime, nothing else, no restriction needed. Okay, this condition is not mandatory to be true always. Okay, so the reason being is that, see, if p divides a, then p divides a to the power p. So a to the power p is also 0 congruent to 0 mod p, and a is also congruent to 0 mod p. So this actually satisfies the condition when p divides a, and when p does not divide a, so it is a direct result from this particular statement. So this is more generalized because this restriction is no more here. I think you people have understood it. So first let's understand the proof of this generalized way of representing the Fermat's Little theorem, and then we will moving on to pseudo prime concepts. Okay, so let's see. So we will do proof by induction. We will do proof by induction. Okay. So what we need to actually prove is that a to the power p is congruent to a mod p for all a belonging to the set of positive integers. So by the well ordering property, so we can use the base case where a equals to 1. So 1 to the power p is congruent to 1 mod p. Therefore base case true. Base case true. Okay. For the induction hypothesis, okay, let be true. Let be true for some a equals to k. So what does that imply? That implies that k to the power p is congruent to k mod p. K to the power p is congruent to k mod p. Now k plus 1 whole to the power p can be expanded using binomial expansion as k to the power p plus, it will become pc1 k to the power p minus 1 plus pc2 k to the power p minus 2, and so on, right? So on till pcp 1 to the power k, or k to the power 0. Yeah. Or should rather write it like k to the power 0. Got it? Achha, what is this expression? pc1, pc2, and so on. So pcr, also written as like this, pr, this represents the expression p factorial over r factorial into p minus r factorial. Okay, and r, the inequality which r must satisfy is that r must be greater than equal to 1 and must be less than equals to p minus 1. Clear? This is called the combination formula. This is called the combination formula. Okay. Yeah. Now this is actually pretty much visible that if you take some x is equals to p factorial over r factorial into p minus r factorial. Okay, or rather write it like this, that it is p and pcr. Clear? So if you actually take this r factorial here, so r factorial times x is actually 0 mod p, is actually 0 mod p. The reason being is that p factorial over p minus r whole factorial is of the form p times p minus 1 and so on till p minus r plus 1. Okay, got it. So this actually gives you p mod 0, 0 mod p, sorry, 0 mod p, where p is a prime. Okay, now see one thing key. So from here what we actually get, from here we actually get that either p divides r factorial or p divides x. Yeah, acha. Now carefully notice that since 1 greater than less than equals to r less than equals to p minus 1, if p divides r factorial, therefore there exists some j such that 1 less than equals to j less than r less than equals to p minus 1. Okay, such that p divides j, and which is impossible, which is impossible. Okay, the reason being key, j is less than p minus 1, so j is actually less than p. So since j is less than p, you cannot divide j with p. Clear? So this portion is impossible, therefore p must divide x. Okay, or we get that p must divide pcr, or or pcr is basically is congruent to 0 mod p. Okay, therefore notice something that k plus 1 to the power p, which is actually given as the summation k to the power p plus, you can sum it like this, r equals to 1. Okay, r equals to 1 to p minus 1, this, and here you have k to the power p minus r plus 1, you can write it like this. Okay, so which is congruent to k to the power p plus 1 mod p. Reason being key, this complete portion will be congruent to 0 mod p, because we just concluded from here that any combination of any combination including p and r will be actually 0, 0 congruent to 0 mod p. Okay, and k to the power p must be congruent to k mod p, because that was assumed in the induction hypothesis, that was assumed in the induction hypothesis. So from here what you actually get is that, so this is congruent to k plus 1 mod p. Therefore the induction hypothesis is verified, or induction hypothesis is true. Therefore, or you can write it like this, that k plus 1 whole to the power p is congruent to k plus 1 mod p when k to the power p is congruent to k mod p. Therefore induction hypothesis verified or proved. Thus a to the power p is congruent to a mod p for all a belongs to positive integers, p being prime, is proved via or proved by mathematical induction. Clear? So the Fermat's generalized form of Fermat's little theorem is finally proved. But so this is of great importance to problems which include the powers of integers and you are asked to find its congruence modulo some prime number. So I was discussing some sort of this in the first lecture of the number theory series where we had problems regarding congruences, and I told that we will be discussing about Fermat's Little theorem later in the series. So suppose you have been asked that the remainder find the remainder when 2 to the power 1117 is divided 2 to the power 1117 is divided by, let's say, is divided by 3. Okay, now so we know that a to the power 3, or rather let's say a to the power 2 will be congruent to 1 mod 3, or you can write a to the power 3 will be congruent to a mod 3. Clear? We can use this as well as this, not a problem. Okay, so using this is actually more beneficial because then we can directly use the Euler's torsion function. Euler's torsion function can be directly used. So basically if we break 2 to the power 1117 into parts which has the power of a square, that is a square times, so 1116 by 2 is 2 5s are 10 and 58, so a square to the power 58 times a, right? This is equals to sorry 2, let it be 2, so this is equals to 2 to the power 117, right? And this should be congruent to 1 times 2 modulo 3 because a square is 1 mod 3. So from here we get that this is congruent to 2 mod 3. Okay. So in this way we can use Fermat's Little theorem to solve problems. Okay, we could have also done this using 3. Okay, see it's 117 3 divides 117, right? So 117 can be written as a multiple of 3 here, so this is 39, I guess. Yeah, 3 3s are 9 and 27, yeah, 39. So this can be written as a cube to the power 39 congruent to, so a cube is a, so a cube will basically be a mod 3. Clear? A cube will basically be a mod 3, so this actually goes down to, so I'm writing it here freshly, so a to the power 3 whole to the power 39 actually is congruent to a to the power 39 mod 3. A to the power 39 is a to the power 3 to the power 13. Clear? So this will be a to the power 13 mod 3. Okay, this can be further, so a to the power 13 can be written as a to the power 3 whole to the power 4 times a. So this will be equals to a to the power 4, and here you have 1a. So this becomes a to the power 4 times a mod 3. So this will be congruent to, so a to the power 4 times a becomes a to the power 5. Okay, and a to the power 5 can be written as a cube into a square, a cube into a square. Now a cube is 1 mod 3, right? So a cube is a mod 3, so this becomes a into a square modulo 3, which is congruent to a cube modulo 3, which is congruent to a mod 3, right? What was a was 2, so 2 to the power 3 to the power 39, that is equal to 2 to the power 117 is congruent to 2 mod 3. You can use this one. This one is shorter. This one actually needs shorter steps. So whatever you like. So this is the Euler's little theorem. Sorry, Fermat's little theorem. Okay. So next check some theorem which is related to the Fermat's little theorem itself. Okay. This is not a theorem, basically a lemma. That is a lemma. So lemma says that P and Q are distinct primes such that a to the power p is congruent to a mod q and a to the power q is congruent to a mod p, then this implies This implies a to the power pq is congruent to a mod p. This is a lemma. Okay. Now, how can you actually prove this? So you can see here that, if you, okay, so see, you have got that a to the power p is congruent to q mod a. Okay. And a to the power q is also congruent to q mod a. So what you can actually do is that if you raise this to the power q, if you raise this to the power q, then you also get q here, then you also get q here. Okay. Or let us do one thing. Let us do one thing. Let us not go into this complexity. Okay. See, we have got a to the power q is congruent to a mod p, right? Is congruent to a mod p. So a to the power q whole to the power p, a to the power q whole to the power p is congruent to a to the power p mod p, is congruent to a to the power p mod p, right? Now, what is a to the power p mod p? So a to the power p mod p is actually a mod p. So a to the power pq is congruent to a mod p, is congruent to a mod p, right? That means ki a to the power pq minus a is divisible by p. Now, using the same method, you can also show that q divides a to the power pq minus a. Okay. Now, since GCD of p and q is 1 because both are prime and both are distinct, therefore you can multiply them. So you get pq divides a to the power pq minus a, and from here you get that a to the power pq is congruent to a mod pq. I guess this portion is clear. Got it? Okay. So now we move on to what we call pseudo primes. This might be a new term to you people. Pseudo prime. Okay. Pseudo primes. What is a pseudo prime? I'm telling you. So a composite integer n for which a to the power n is congruent to a mod n, okay, is called a pseudo prime, is called a pseudo prime to base a, to base a. So carefully compare it with the Euler's-Little theorem. In Euler's-Little theorem, you had got that a to the power p is congruent to p mod a, right, where p was prime. Here you are getting a to the power n is congruent to a mod n, where n is a composite integer. That means ki n is not prime. Okay, n is not prime. So I'm writing it down here that n is not prime, but you know includes characteristics, includes characteristics of primes, right? You can relate n and p by the Euler's theorem, Fermat's theorem. Clear? So from here what we get is that, so this sort of a composite number which is not prime but it has characteristics, or got characteristics of prime numbers, these sorts of composite numbers are called pseudo primes. Okay, are called pseudo primes. I guess it's clear. I guess it's clear. Okay. So these are also called prime imposters. These are also called prime imposters. Okay, behaving like primes but are not primes actually. Okay, so you know there are many examples of these sorts of pseudo primes, but they are actually less dense than prime numbers. Okay, Pseudo primes are actually less dense than prime numbers. There are about 247 pseudo primes. There are about 247 pseudo primes, between 1 and 1 million, while there are 78,400, 500, right? 78,500 primes, no, 78,498 primes between 1 and 1 million. So they are very much less dense. They are very much less dense. Okay. For example, for example, let's say, you know, let's say 5 to the power 2070. 5 to the power 2017 is congruent to 5 mod 2017. Clear? You can prove this actually. 2000 and 217, right? 207, not 2017, 217. I don't know why today I am suffering so much slip of tongues. I guess it's lack of focus or maybe the weather. So I'm very sorry. Acha, 217. So what are the factors of 217 actually? So it can be divisible. It is divisible by 7. So it is 31 times 7, right? And 31 is, a prime number itself. Acha, what is the totient value of 31? It must be 30. What is the totient value of 7? It must be 6. Okay, it must be 6. So let us check whether this condition is actually valid for 31 and 30 also, whether or not. So 217, if we actually do congruency mod 30, what do we get? So this is 7 congruent to 7 mod 30. Clear? So 5 to the power 7 is congruent to, now if you do take 31 here, now you do 31 because, so we actually so actually did the congruence mod the totient function of 31 with 217, which we were doing during the Euler's finding the remainders using Euler's theorem. So 5 to the power 7, okay, involved with 31. Clear? So here we actually need, sorry, this is not 7, this must be 6. This must be 6. Okay, to use the Euler's totient function, this must be 6. So this will be not 7 but 6. Okay. So this is 5 to the power 6. So 5 to the power 6 can be written as, you can write it at 25 times 25 times 25. Okay, 5 to the 5 square whole to the power 3, right? And 25 is minus 6 mod 31. So this is minus 6 times minus 6 times minus 6. So this becomes 36 times minus 6. 36 is basically 5 mod 31. So this becomes 5 into minus 6, that is minus 30, and minus 30 is 1 mod 31. So from here we get 5 to the power 7 is congruent to 5 mod 30. Okay. In a similar way, you can also check it for 7. Okay. So similarly, you have many more examples. For example, you have 91 is the smallest pseudo prime to base 30. So sorry, to base 3. Okay. So these are a few examples. Now there an exceptional case appears for these pseudo primes. An exceptional case appears for these pseudo primes. What is that exceptional case? Okay. Now there exists composite numbers. There exists composite numbers. Okay. Wait a minute. So there exists composite numbers n such that n is pseudo prime. N is pseudo prime to every base a, to every base a. What actually I mean is that a to the power n is congruent to a mod p. A to the power n is congruent to a mod p, sorry, a mod n, for all a belong to the set of positive numbers. Okay, for just the examples which we were viewing just now. Okay, that is 217, which was pseudo prime to the base 5. Okay, they had a fixed base. 217 had the base 5, 91 has the base 3. But these sorts of numbers, these sorts of composite numbers, they are pseudo prime to every integer a. Clear? So these sorts of pseudo primes are called absolute pseudo primes. These sorts of pseudo primes are called absolute pseudo primes. And one more important term related to it is that they are called Carmichael numbers. They are called Carmichael numbers. The naming is given after R.D. Carmichael. The naming is given after R.D. Carmichael. Naming is given after R.D. Carmichael, who first published a paper on absolute pseudo primes in 1910, which included 561, 1105, 2821 and 15841. These as pseudo primes, sorry, absolute pseudo primes. Yeah. So 561 is the lowest pseudo prime which ever has been discovered. Okay, got it. So you can check it yourself that 561 can be factorized at 3 into 11 into 17. So you can check that a to the power 561 is congruent to a mod 561 by breaking it into three forms. That is, a to the power 561 is congruent to 3 mod a, congruent to a mod 3. A to the power 561 is congruent to a mod 11 and congruent to a mod 17. You can check it in the following manner and then see whether it is possible or not. If it is possible, then you can multiply them, okay, together to show that a to the power 561 is congruent to a mod 561. I guess this portion is clear. Okay, so in this way you can actually check. So these four are few examples of absolute pseudo primes. I guess this much is clear for you people. Okay. Let's see next thing. Okay, one more thing, which is a very important property of pseudo primes is that absolute pseudo primes rather, an absolute pseudo prime must be square free. Okay, an absolute pseudo prime must be square free. What do I mean by it? So square free numbers, if n is an absolute pseudo prime, then there exists no pi which is a prime number such that pi square divides n. Okay, there is no even times repeating factor, or basically there is no repeating prime factor of n. There is no repeating prime factor of n. Got it? So this is a very important property of absolute pseudo primes. Okay. You can ask me why. What is the reason behind it? So finding the reason behind is actually very much easy. So I'm showing you it. So k to the power n is congruent to k mod n, where n is an absolute pseudo prime. Okay, absolute pseudo prime. Clear? And since k square divides n, so we are actually considering that n is not square free. We're actually assuming that n is not square free. So since k square divides n, so we can write actually that k to the power n is congruent to, sorry, k to the power n is congruent to 0 mod k square, which actually means that k square divides k, which actually means that k square divides k, which is impossible, which is impossible. True only if k equals to 1, but 1 is not a prime number. Got it? So that is the reason why this is not. So every absolute pseudo prime or Carmichael number must be square free. I guess you people have got it. Okay. So we are left with the last theorem of this particular lecture, and I will be ending this lecture after this theorem. It says that, I am writing it in red because it is important. So let n be a composite square free integer. Let n be a composite square free integer. Say n is equals to, product of prime factors. Okay, product of the prime factors from I to R pi. Okay, pi's are distinct primes. Pi's are distinct primes. Okay, so pi minus 1 dividing n minus 1 for I equals to 1 2 till R implies that n is an absolute pseudo prime. N is an absolute pseudo prime. So proving this is actually homework for you. If you can't prove this, in the next lecture we will be starting with proving this particular theorem, and then we will be moving on with Wilson's theorem. Okay, so I hope you like this particular video. We will be meeting in the next lecture with Wilson's theorem. So meeting you guys in the next lecture.